Hey guys, so today I have been thinking about the Ethnicity and Diversity Panel, which I know feels like it was an age ago now, but I don't think it was even that long. It was basically almost 2 weeks ago, but it feels like it was a lot longer than that. But there were so many awesome points that I think came out of that, and I think rather than necessarily adding to the discussion completely, I think I'd just like to share them with you, because I don't know if you've heard a lot about what was discussed on this panel, but I really think the answers are worth sharing. So yeah, I don't know if this will come out very coherently, but I hope you get something out of it, because it was such an awesome panel. So yeah, I think the Ethnicity and Diversity Panel, I think I'll attempt to put the people who are on the panel's names and channels in the description at some point. I'm really sorry if that doesn't happen immediately, but I will do so as soon as possible. But it was just, I don't know everyone's names, you see, so I know that it was chaired by Daha from Can't Stop Me, which was absolutely amazing. His questions were really awesome, and just the panel itself, like, they had so many unique perspectives. Like, obviously everyone was a person of colour, and everyone came from like a different background. So like there were Sudi Breaks, who does a lot of poetry, and there was Jana, who runs both an English channel and a channel in Arabic, and there was also, I can't remember what her name was, but there was like a fitness vlogger, and there was like a comedian. So they all had and there was of course Nathan Zed, who's also a comedian, and it was such an awesome panel, because they all have experienced like different, they've all experienced being a person of colour, but just from different perspectives, and I think that was one thing I really got from that. Like, you know, there are so many people of colour everywhere, and it's just so important to celebrate that, and to make sure that we diversify what we watch, because it's really one thing they did bring up was the fact that obviously it's so nice to watch what you're familiar with, and there's nothing wrong with that, just making sure that you do step out of your comfort zone, because obviously diversity is important, because it's the reality of how the world is, and it's so easy to fall into the trap of just believing that you know, the mainstream is right as such, and that's all there is to it. There's always more to be seen, and one of the points that was made was the fact that it's so important that we break away from stereotypes, but also don't necessarily create new stereotypes, and also that when you're watching a person, a person who's of a different ethnicity to yourself, that you remember that they are talking from their own perspective and not trying to represent their whole race. And that's really important, I think, because it's really easy to look at someone and think, well, this is one person I know who is from this background, and it's really easy to think, well, I think it just goes to however you see things, how everything is in general. Like, you shouldn't just see like one person as a source of information for everything. You should always, widen your sources and try and get as big, you know what I mean. Like, try and get as many sources of information as possible before. You mean not necessarily for a judgment, but just trying to be as open as you can, because obviously the more people you listen to, the more diverse your perspective will be, and that's how it works best. I'm sorry, this is probably going to end up being quite a long video, but I think the really cool thing I got from this panel, I think, was thinking about how obviously the ethnicity isn't the biggest thing about anyone's personality. It is just a part of who you are. But at the same time, we should really try and incorporate people of colour more, because obviously they do represent a lot of the viewership, as well as the creators in our community, and the fact that it's so important that we're not afraid to ask questions, because it's so easy to believe that people will laugh, or they'll be offended, but quite honestly, if you're trying to learn, then that's asking questions is the best way to do that. Like, you're not going to get very far if you don't ask questions. And honestly, like pretty much all of them just said, you know, if you have a question, even if it feels silly, it's so important to ask, because, you know, it brings you closer to you, it allows you to understand them. And, you know, if you can understand them better, then, you know, you'll be able to connect to them more. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to show how we're all human, but we can't do that if we constantly believe that there's so much separating us. It's really important that we try. Oh, I picked up the wrong colour. It's really important that we try and understand that there is so much that connects us, and diversity is so important in realising that, because it's hard to understand sometimes, because it feels like there's so much that's different. But the more you stick around, and you know, you make sure that you take, you know, that you try and diversify your perspectives, the more you'll understand, and the better you'll feel, I think. So yeah, I know that probably was a very, very brief snapshot into what was spoken about during the Ethnicity and Diversity Panel. And I think I'd like to say as well, if you do have any questions for me, like, I know, once again, as I said, I am simply talking from my perspective, and how, you know, and the worldview that I have. So I would be happy to answer questions from my perspective, but yeah, obviously don't take them as like the hard truth for everyone. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I would love to know what your thoughts are as well. How do we incorporate diversity more, and why do you think it's important? So yeah, I'm going to try and leave as many linkages as I can. I might actually try and upload, I took some notes during the panel as well, so I might try and do a summary and put that in the description as well, because it was really, really cool. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful time doing what you're doing, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!